G'day guys, Daikaiju Down Under here. In today's video, we're going to talk about my most recent and arguably now my favorite custom figure in my entire collection, and that is this guy, my custom Hiya Toys King Ghidorah 1991 figure, the DD Universe King Ghidorah. Now, originally I had planned on doing a making of video for this guy, and I still do have the footage for that, but it just didn't really turn out as well as I wanted it to. And in that video, I sort of missed bringing this figure, bringing this creation, this custom, actually up close to the camera in a more nuanced way, really highlighting certain areas. So that's what I'm gonna do now. I'm actually gonna bring this thing closer to you guys, talk about the process of how I made it, some of the decisions I made and why it looks the way it does, and hopefully that will sort of satisfy that need in me to really have this guy showcased, because this is, without a doubt, my favorite custom that I've ever done. And in a weird paradoxical way, it was sort of the most complicated while also being the easiest, and I'll tell you why right now. Alright, so while we have this figure spinning around here doing a bit of a 360, I'll talk about some of the choices I made while making this custom. So originally I wanted this guy to be done properly. I wanted to do it really nice, really take my time on it, but that just ended up being a logistical nightmare. This thing is absolutely impossible to separate. I tried separating all those segments for the heads there, all of the segments for the tails, all of the segments for the legs. Everything you're supposed to do when customizing an action figure like this. I just couldn't do it. It would not work. The figure just would not separate. The most I was able to get were the 3 heads off and then the 2 tails off. Everything else stayed completely intact. So I committed what is arguably the biggest sin you can commit while creating a custom figure, and that's basically painting all of the articulated parts at once. So everything got sprayed with top coat, then I had to wait for that to dry, articulate the joints, do it again. And I did that about 4 times just to get the base coat of this figure done, and even then some of the gold still shows through. In fact, if you take a close look at the figure here, some of the gold is still showing. I can see a little bit of gold here, I can see some gold on the necks there. So I didn't do the best job, but I did the best job that I could. Now, the same goes for the black base coat. So that took a lot longer to dry as well. It was a lot wetter of a paint. So overall, about 4 top coats, 4 primer coats, 4 black coats, and then 4 top coats later, I had the base of the figure actually ready to paint. And as you can see, guys, I've chosen to paint this thing very similar to another Ghidorah from Toho's scope, and that is one of my favorites, Des Ghidorah. So let's stop this turntable and let's look at this paint a little closer. Alrighty guys, talking about the paint and color scheme on this figure. Again, this thing is directly inspired by Des Ghidorah, one of my favorite Ghidorah designs. The striking red compared to the dark body just looks phenomenal on that character, and I'm so glad that it translated really, really well to this figure here. The Heisei Ghidorah looks phenomenal in this color scheme, if I do say so myself, and I'm so glad that I went in this direction. Now, this figure here is going to represent the DD Universe Ghidorah. So that means it's going to be the opposite of our DD Universe Godzilla. And as you can see, together they do look really, really nice. So I'm so glad that that also ended up being a very sort of nice balance between the two there. So let's get our DD Universe Godzilla out of the way and talk about our Ghidorah. So originally black coat, gray dry brushing, and that was it. As you can tell though, I did do just a little bit more just to really differentiate this figure from a standard black with gray dry brushing figure, and we'll talk about those wings in a second. So as you can see, I've really done some very nice highlights on the tips of every single part of Ghidorah's scales. So originally black, gray dry brushing, and then a very, very fine, lots of hours spent doing it, honestly, just going over pretty much every single scale. So every scale here sort of has a bit of a gradient, and it does look absolutely fantastic. The necks on Ghidorah, same thing, right? So a very nice sort of gray, and it transitions into a darker gray near the edge there, and then the actual darker scales. And as you can tell, guys, this thing does still articulate very, very well. Some of that gold does show through, some of the paint does chip, and that's just the nature of doing custom figures. But for the most part, the figure stays relatively paint and chip free. So I can move all of these around, and you can see that I really did take my time painting as much of it as I could. In fact, you hardly even notice some of the gold and stuff that sticks through. Now, the heads on Ghidorah here, they had some very, very nice sort of attention to detail, timing to them. I spent a long time on these heads, doing the horns, doing just the very tips of the brow there, the nose and whatnot, for the face of Ghidorah here. Now, the eyes and the mouths actually stayed base stock from the higher figure, and that was done using a very cheap technique, just some blue tack. You close the mouth, you put some blue tack around it, you put some blue tack over the eyes, and there you go. You don't need to worry about painting those. I hate painting eyes and teeth on a lot of my figures, so if I can avoid it nowadays, I usually do. Now, another choice that was made near the end of the figure was doing a very, very subtle blackish purple shadow. So I put that on some of these recesses here on the figure. Turning it around, you can see I did a tiny bit of that on the legs. This figure is such a large figure, guys. It is so hard to keep it all in frame and just showcase everything that I want to talk about. But you can see some of that sort of purplish black here on the wings and such. I really did take my time with this figure, and one of the benefits of doing this thing the wrong way, the incorrect way of painting, the bits that I missed that were originally stock black that didn't really get a dry brush, they look really nice in shadow. So that ended up being a very nice happy accident. You can see that a lot more on the tails here. But let's zoom in to Ghidorah's wings. Those are the most striking aspect of this figure, and they were definitely the most time consuming and the thing that I was worried about the most, because as you know, Hayes Ghidorah uses bendy wire wings. Now, I think the wings on our custom Haya Ghidorah here, our Desk Ghidorah inspired figure, turned out absolutely perfect. I am so happy with how these turned out, and that was achieved by doing a very, very light coat of bright red first, followed by a very, very dark dry brushing of red, about 2 coats of that, before going over again with a lighter sort of red. And it gave it that really nice, almost velvety sort of glowy look, especially on those very edges, which you can see just over here, on the very edge of the wing membranes here, and then on these sort of folded, wrinkly sort of details. It looks absolutely fantastic. You've got the nice shadows in there, you've got the deep red, the bright red. It looks absolutely fantastic. And then I went over just sort of the bone membrane there with about 2 layers or so of black dry brushing, and then a tiny bit of gray over the top of those. And then that really does sort of bring it all together. It gives that nice sort of shadow in between where all of the theoretical bones would be. I say bones, but Ghidorah kind of bends his wings forward, and this figure can do that as well. So you can metaphorically bend those bones. And as you can see, guys, the paint on this is really, really durable. I'm really happy with how that ended up turning out. That was my biggest concern when doing this figure. I was so scared that the paint on the wings was just going to sort of chip. But as you can see, I can really bend these wings here, trying to keep it all in frame. And there isn't any stress or anything there. So the paint that I used was really, really top quality, nice flexible stuff from Vallejo. And I'm so glad that it worked out the way I intended. These wings look absolutely phenomenal. And before we wrap things up, guys, I thought it would be a really cool idea to showcase our custom Haya Toys King Ghidorah 1991 figure, our custom DD Universe Ghidorah, next to some other established DD Universe characters. Of course, we have our DD Universe Gigan, our DD Universe Godzilla, our channel mascot, the DD Universe Mechagodzilla, and of course, Jet and Jaguar. So let me know down in the comment section below, guys, what do you think of this custom? Did it turn out well, or should I just never do a custom figure again? I'd love to know, so let me know down below. I've been Dakaiju Down Under. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.